Hi guys, it's Mrs. Bachman, and this is our Oregon Treaty Activity video. This video is for those of you guys who were absent the day that we did the Oregon Treaty Activity as a class. Before you watch this video, please make sure that you watch the introductory video where I talk about lines of latitude and longitude and how it is similar to graphing in math class. That's a really important video to start off with. At any point, do you feel like I'm going too quickly and you cannot keep up with me? Feel free just to pause the video. So, with the Oregon Treaty Activity, the first thing you need to do is to number your paragraphs, as well as read the introductory essay. Then you're going to need to know that you will be using a green pen, a purple pen, and a red pen. Feel free to use markers or color pencils, whatever you happen to have handy, but they do need to be in those particular colors. So let's start with section A, which we're going to be doing in green. 5440 or fight. James Polk used this as a campaign slogan when he ran for president. Follow the directions and answer the questions to figure out what it meant. On the globe, lines of latitude are measured in degrees. Find the mark for the 54-degree line. Label it 54 degrees. So on our map, you're going to notice that lines of latitude are marked every 5 specifically, and then every one has a line started. Here would be 54 degrees, and we are going to label that 54 degrees. Number 2. The north border of Oregon country was at 54 degrees 40 minutes. The apostrophe symbol means minutes. There are 60 minutes between each line of latitude, so 54 degrees 40 minutes would be pretty close to the 55-degree line. Put a mark where you think 54 degrees 40 minutes would be. So we learned in the last video that there are 60 minutes between each line of latitude, and so about halfway through would be 30, so 40 would be right above there. You're going to just draw a line right there. Draw a line, number 3. Draw a line across the map at 54 degrees 40 minutes. Make sure your line is curved like the 55-degree line. Hint, it should be exactly along the north border of the Oregon country. So with your green marker or your pen, you're going to draw a line right where the 54-40 mark would be. Now, none of our lines are going to be perfect because we're drawing them by hand, and so it might look a little wonky, and that's fine. But you're going to see that this is directly above halfway between 54 and 55 degrees. Number 4, label your line 54 degrees 40 minutes. And so on our map, we're going to label that 54 degrees 40 minutes. Number 5, reread the second paragraph of the reading. Explain what you think 5440 or fight meant. So we know where 54 degrees and 40 minutes is. What does 5440 or fight mean? So back up into our reading, we're going to read the second paragraph. War with Great Britain again? Yep, it was another dispute with America's former mother country. Back then, Great Britain controlled the territory we know today as Canada. Oregon country stretched from the border between modern-day Oregon and California, all the way up into British territory. Both Britain and America wanted this land, and they'd been arguing over it for a while. But the 1840s was a time when Americans got a passion for expanding. James Polk shared that passion, and he won the 1844 presidential election, promising to add Oregon to the United States. He let the British believe America would go to war to control all of Oregon country. So, again, what does 5440 or fight mean? When you figure that out, you're going to write it down right here. Again, pause the video if you need more time. Going on to B, compromise. We're now using our purple pen. Number 1, which line of latitude did the U.S. and Great Britain finally agree would be the border? So what degree line? Let's go into paragraph 3 and figure that out. What a clever guy. President Polk was bluffing. By that time, the U.S. and Britain had already agreed that America's northern border would run along the 49th parallel. All right, so that's where the border would be. Make sure you write it down here. Find the mark for that line of latitude and label it. So if this is 50 degrees and this is 45 degrees, then we know that this must be 49 degrees. And so grab your purple pen and label that 49 degrees. Number 2. Oops, that line of latitude runs right through the bottom of a large island off the coast of Oregon country. Find that island. Label it Vancouver Island. And so taking a look at our map and just following this line, you're going to see that this big island is right in the middle of that line of latitude. That is Vancouver Island. So let's label that Vancouver Island. Number 4. Draw the border between the U.S. and British territory. Let's go back to number 3. It was agreed that Great Britain would get Vancouver Island. Shade the island with lines like this. And so we're going to use our purple pens, and we're going to shade Vancouver Island. Like that. Now number 4. Draw the border between the U.S. and British territory in Oregon country. Do not draw anything across Vancouver Island. And so again, with our purple pen, we're going to be drawing the border along that territory. Notice that the border does not go past the water right here. It does not go into Vancouver Island. And it really runs along that border that's already pre-existed between Canada, or British territory as it was then known, and the United States. And number 5, shade all of the British territory with lines like this. Same as we did with Vancouver Island. And so here we go. Everything above 49th degree would be British territory. Let me see if I can get my screen back. Sorry for my technical difficulties. I'll just do it like this then. There we go. All right, number C, or letter C rather, the Oregon Trail. Use the diary entries to help you draw the Oregon Trail on the map. Now we're going to be using red. Entry number 1. We are on the trail heading northwest from Independence to Fort Kearny. I hope we arrive soon. So Independence is right here. Using red, you're going to draw a line from Independence to Fort Kearny, just like you heard on the video, or rather in the journal entry. Once you've done that, please label that number 1. Number 2, entry 2. We left Fort Kearny. It is so beautiful traveling along the river. Plus, we always have water. Next stop, Fort Laramie. So a couple of things we need to remember. We left Fort Kearny, we're going to Fort Laramie, and we're following the river. So we have Fort Kearny, Fort Laramie, and we are following the river up. And so we're going to put our line in there. And we're going to make sure that we label that 2. There we go again. Entry number 3. We're headed into the Rocky Mountains, but we are still following the river. We will cross the Rockies at South Pass. The mountains look steep and scary. And so we know from the article or from the journal entry that we're starting at Fort Laramie, and we're still following the river until South Pass, which is right here. And so you're going to label this, again, draw it in with red. And then you're going to label that number 3. Entry number 4. We made it through the pass. Can't wait until we get to Fort Hall. So we're going from South Pass to Fort Hall. Notice that there is no mention of a river here. And so again, grab your red colored pencil or marker and continue that to Fort Hall. Entry 5. I'm so glad we're traveling along a river again. Oh, we're on a river again. We'll be able to follow the Snake River all the way to Fort Boise. So now we're going from Fort Hall to Fort Boise, and we know that we are now following the Snake River. And we're going to label that step number 5. Entry number 6. We followed the snake away from Fort Boise, but now the river is going northeast, and we have to go northwest. We will travel away from the river and go up to the Whitman Mission. This is the trickiest spot because we are going to be following the river until the river turns to the east, right here. Instead, we're going to go to the west. And so let's grab our red pen and color in that section of our journey and label it Step 6. And finally, entry number 7. Almost there, we'll follow the Columbia River to the Dalles, and then to Fort Vancouver. Then we'll look for a place to settle down and live. So our last journey is from Whitman Mission, along the Columbia River to the Dalles, and into Fort Vancouver. So our last step of our journey is right there, and now we have completed our Oregon Treaty activity. Please make sure that you get it turned into Mrs. Bachman and that you mark that you were absent. Good luck!